written a position paper until I spoke with Ryan about tomorrow evening, and I'll rewrote it. So that's the new version, and I'll probably send the old one. Dan and Laurie are interested. So being asked to define my position as a French academic within the field of Canadian studies has regularly led me to dispel the assumption that all French scholars are involved in the study of issues related to French Canada. How can one be French and be so fickle as to forget to remember the injunction to remember? Je me souviens. As a result, my position as a specialist of English Canadian, and stress literature, has essentially been a marginal one, which, as Canadians well know, has some advantages attached to it. Occupying the margin in the French Association for Canadian Studies that was created in La Sorbonne in 1976, the AFEC, not the affect, an association is self-affiliated to the International Council for Canadian Studies, means that I have been participating in conferences where most papers were delivered by French-speaking anthropologists, historians, geographers, lawyers, political scientists, all of them related to the Belle Province. And most of the time, completely unaware of what was going on in the rest of Canada. Since its creation, the AFEC has repeatedly been confronted with the challenge of creating the conditions for an interdisciplinary dialogue in which the role of the literature person, especially if her research lies on the English-speaking side of the Canadian cultural continuum, is to preserve and cultivate a perspective on diversity, no matter how disturbing these plural voices may be in their competitive and contradictory claims. This, to me, is the most appealing aspect of Canadian literature. It is also the one I find most rewarding when teaching students who never suspected, bred as they are on a robust diet of American and British classics, that one could be so creative when tampering with the Western tradition. And Canadians do tamper a great deal. Now, coming back to expectations, my own way of being predictable probably lies in my interest in landscape, a topic which, when speaking of Canada, cannot fail to trigger a feeling of déjà vu, even perhaps a feeling of plain boredom. After all, the genre was pronounced dead in the 1980s by all the people who were beginning to make a difference in the field of cultural studies. Yet, exhausted as landscape conventions may be, landscape has been enduring beyond the age of the picturesque and the requirements of documentary photography virtually everywhere in Canadian literature and visual culture. The question is why? And it is a question that has kept me busy in recent years. For the present occasion, I have decided to narrow my interest and focus on the work of three Canadian photographers, William McMaster, Edward Batinsky, and Douglas Copeland, who have definitely made a contribution to the Canadian landscape. My essay retraces the genealogy of trace that informs their otherwise very distinct ways of seeing, because they foreground the exhaustion of landscape as a set of conventions, but also as a repository of usable resources. Their photographs question the role landscape has traditionally played in the Canadian rhetoric of national identifications. What lies at the core of these photographs is the possibility that the viewer may fail to recognize the landscapes they represent for what they are, that is, as traces of an ongoing disappearance. To me, the way these photographs dramatize the instance of recognition as a failed encounter with the land, or as a misapprehension of its very nature, chord that resonates in Canadian literature. From the carnival scenes of Roughing It in the Bush to more recent fiction, and I'm thinking here of the abundance of fossils in Canadian literature. From the work of Robert Roach. No, I'm not. There's no private joke here. We all fossils. We'll soon be after the end of the program. So, more recent fiction. So I was just mentioning Robert Croke's novels and poetry, and the other writer I have in mind is Joan Thomas. She's a complicated writer to assess, but this is the topic of another essay. So you see how one essay is on and ultimately